going to be a tutorial on how to draw a basic portrait, front view. This is an intro and we're going to focus mainly on lines, so this would maybe be practice for a more developed one. We're going to start first with the basic shape of the head, which is going to be, let's make sure it's on screen, which is going to be an oval or an egg shape, but think of the bottom of the egg, the pointy part of the egg, as facing down. So when you're drawing this, this might be a little bit challenging to draw for the first time. So you can do this in a few ways. One way is to, instead of maybe just starting with that egg shape, maybe starting more thinking with about a circle, kind of sketching that until you have what you want there. And then adding this kind of somewhat rounded triangular part at the end. And so notice, this is definitely sketchy and rough, and I'm going to make little adjustments to it till I'm happy with it. This is all an underdrawing that we're starting out with, so this is not any part of the actual finished drawing. This is kind of figuring out the proportions and just where things are going to go. I always, at this stage, or before I even do that egg shape, I always do a line of symmetry down the center, so go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw a neck. So a neck will be kind of like the egg is sitting on a rectangle. So that's going to be not too skinny, a little bit narrower than the full width of the head, so something like that. And then we are going to give this some shoulders. So we've got various people to look at over here. So I've got a portrait there. So this portrait, you can actually see the shoulders, this photograph. So we are going to pull that a little wider so you can see. Basically, the head is this width, right? So I'll just kind of draw these light lines. These are just guiding lines. So this would be one head sitting on the shoulders. And then we say that the shoulders are 2 to 3 heads wide. So if you're making it 3 heads wide, I would take that measurement and kind of put that over on the side there. And I would take that measurement again, and I would put that over on the side there, and I'm just kind of making a mark. Can't get that any further over. So you can kind of just see those light marks. And depending on the person, if you've got someone with wide shoulders, oftentimes that would be a male. The shoulders might be fully that wide. On someone with narrower shoulders, so oftentimes a female, they might be a little bit thinner. So we're going to start first with basically an angle like so, coming down. And then that's going to be a part of the neck there, like this. And then that's going to kind of taper into the rest of the shoulder. And so the rest of the shoulder is going to be not quite straight across, but kind of maybe sloping down. And then if the shoulders are not quite this wide, you might have just that kind of sloping with maybe the arm being that wide, but maybe not the top of the shoulder. But if you want to draw someone whose shoulders are a little bit wider, you might have the shoulders fully that wide. So we've got basic head and shoulders, and we're ready to work on the rest of the face up here. Now I just needed those little guiding lines for helping to measure the shoulders, and in fact I'm going to also write on this shoulders, 3 heads. You could write 2 to 3 heads across. So I do want you to take little notes on this as you go. All right, the next measurement we're going to do is we're going to split the head in half the other way. So head from top to bottom like so. I'm going to kind of guess at where I want that halfway line to be. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to erase this circle. If you had a circle helping you draw that egg shape or oval shape, you can get rid of that so it doesn't get in the way. And then I'm going to see, okay, how accurate was that line? If you think it's accurate, then I can just draw that all the way across. And you are free to use your ruler to help you figure out whether that is accurate. All right, this is going to be the eye line. So right over here, eye line, and that's going to be half. So halfway up the head. And now we're going to divide this bottom half of the head again. We're going to divide it in half again, and then we can kind of see where we've got that. That's going to be the nose line. Now this is one that I've had people sometimes struggle with depending on different measurements you can try for this. So usually I've said nose line, and that's a quarter because it's the half of the half, so a quarter way up. But sometimes that ends up being a little bit long, so for a while I was saying, okay, do that and then maybe just make it a little bit higher. So you can kind of see how that goes. Sometimes though, if I say, oh, do it at a quarter and then move it up a tiny bit, then it looks too short and people have too much room down here before the lips. So kind of play it by ear and see how that goes. In here, we're going to divide that again. So we're going to divide it in half again, let's say. So I'm going to want to try that out. Okay, and take this over, and that's going to be your mouth line. You guessed it, and this is 1/8 of the way up. All right, and now we're going to start turning these into, not exactly features, but we're going to map out where the features will be. So across this eye line, we're going to have 5 eyes. So I'm going to start with these sort of long ovals, and where I think the eyes are going to be. Look at any of our models here. And then I'm going to see, okay, I should have 1 eye in between. So that might tell me, okay, this eye needs to be a little longer that way, maybe a little shorter this way. So notice I didn't completely redraw those. I just kind of looked at where they were and said, okay, well, do I have 1 eye in between? No, not exactly. All right, well, let me make this a little shorter and then longer over here. So you want to end up with that same amount of space at the center. And then the same amount of space at either side, approximately. All right, we've got our 5 eyes. So we can also add to these 5 eyes fit across the eye line. All right, so this is practice, so you're going to have all your notes over here. We can also add in right now some ears. So from the eye line to the nose line, that's about where the ear will fit. Just make this kind of a narrow oval. Might end up being slightly wider at the top than the bottom, but again, this is only, this is just kind of like mapping out where things are, the general size and shape, not the exact. Now we're going to go ahead and put in a brow line. Oh, and I should say too, sometimes you will see the ears coming all the way up to the brow line, like they do with that person. So if you want to make your ears a little bit longer, if your ears are a little bit bigger, maybe they're going all the way up to the brow line. But at least up to the eye line. All right, now we're going to put in our nose. By the way, I did not have an exact measurement for this brow line. You're just going to put a little higher up. One actually that I have used is you can make it the same height, essentially, as your eye. So that's one way you can kind of estimate that. So I'm going to get rid of that eye now, but I was just showing how you might estimate that. All right, now in the center between these 2 eyes, we're going to put in the the center part, the bridge of the nose. So this is just going to be, for now, just kind of this long oval starting between the eyes there. And then I'm going to put a ball at the bottom, circle. All right, so nice and big. And then on either side of that, I'm going to put another circle kind of overlapping with that. So you could make that center one a little larger if you need to make sure it overlaps. And then I am drawing these lines down because I want to make sure that overall the nose is the width of the space between the eyes. All right, so that's how wide it should be. I can start to erase some of this stuff up here. We don't need all of this necessarily. So I erased that middle eye for now. But I still want to see where that eye line was, so if that erased with it, I'm putting that back in. And from either side of that bridge of the nose, I'm going to make just a diagonal line going up. So that is this, how the bridge of the nose connects to the eyebrows there. And then I'm also going to, from that same spot, either side of the bridge of the nose, I'm going to draw an angle out. And then instead of connecting all the way out here, I'm just going to do a little bit of a diagonal there. So I can get rid of those lines that were guiding me that were just going straight up and down. So I've replaced those guidelines that went straight up and down with an angle and an angle. All right, so now I need to put in our mouth. Our mouth is going to sit right on that mouth line, and it's going to be an oval, again, starting with the width of the nose. And if you've made that skinny enough, you can put another skinny oval on top of it. And you should still have some space in between there. So we just did the bottom lip, and then the top lip, and then we've got this space here. Then we're going to, you can extend a line in the center of the mouth there. Extend that from either side a little bit. And then if that line is going to go to right in the center of the eyeballs. If you drew a line down from the center of the eyeballs, that's about how far out that would go. So you can do that. And then I'm just going to make an angle kind of coming down to that and an angle coming up. So you basically have the sides of the mouth looking a little bit like triangles. Now, that said, none of this is going to look exactly like this. This is just kind of a placeholder for what we have. So I can get rid of some of those guidelines. I don't need those lines coming down from the nose anymore. I don't need the lines from the eyeballs anymore. So this is all just going to be kind of a rough kind of view of what a face is, the structure is. And then we're going to just add details. Actually erase all of this essentially, but this is where the features will be. We're going to finally add a chin. So you can make this an oval. And notice I left a little space here. So see how there's a little space there underneath the lips? Leave that space. And then we're going to define the side planes of the face. So on this guy, you can really see those side planes where the head starts to angle back. So we're going to define that on our character as well. And we're also going to define this jawline, which again, you can see really well on him. So we're going to have our jawline, we're going to start with that actually, and I'm just going to extend that center of the mouth all the way across the head. So this is the line I'm using, all right? We had our mouth line that the mouth was sitting on, but now I've drawn a second line that's right at the center of the mouth. And I'm going to define the sides of the face a little bit. Now sometimes at this point, if I think my head is too wide, I can actually bring it in a little bit, but I'll just stick with what I have. So I can just make an angle from the eye line down to here, and then from there, connecting to the bottom and outside of the chin, like so. And I'll do this over here as well. Now notice this person has a fairly triangular looking face, maybe a little bit more like this. So if I had wanted to make this a little bit more of a rectangular shaped face, and actually I will bring this side in because I think this side is a little bit larger anyway. So notice I had to move the whole ear. So if I were to bring that in a little bit, I would just then redraw to make that match that, and then I would make sure that the skull now connects to where that is. And then if I need to redraw like I'm doing right now, then I just put the ear back on. Now that said, if I had really, oh, and now I did make that too significant, so I'd have to change the other side too. But if I'd wanted to make this a very different shaped face, I could have adjusted and put these sides of the face going more up and down instead of angled, if I wanted to draw someone whose shape of the face looked a little more like this guy. So making little revisions, that is something that you'll do, both maybe because you got something a little bit off the first time, or just making a little revision when you want this to look like a particular person. All right, finally we said we were going to do the planes of the head here, these side planes. So I'm going to start this again at that eye line, and I'm just going to draw an angle down to either side of the chin, well, to one side of the chin first, and then again start at that eye line, and connecting to that other side of the chin. So we've got our basic head and shoulders there. And yeah, so now you'll be ready for the second part of the video, in which we, one at a time, erase everything we've got and replace it with something a little more realistic. I just realized I thought we were done, but I forgot to put eyebrows on this guy. So I can add, on top of the brow line, I'll just have a skinny oval here, and this is as long as the eyeball from where we had that diagonal line coming up from the nose. Same thing over here, coming out to the same length as the eyeball. And then angling down from that, I'm going to have an angled line from each side, and I can give that a little bit of a triangular shape as well. And notice I had this little line coming down here. So you should have still some space between the eyes and the eyebrows. Now again, with different people, his actually kind of angle down quite a bit, so they end up being quite near his eyes. But this might be a little more generalized, and you can adjust for specific people. All right, in video 2, like I said, we'll be adding detail.